Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of SYD Life. You're joined here by Charlotte and Tyler.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about that work-life balance. It's important.
It is.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. I've always wanted to use the Brooklyn Nine-Nine intro.
Yeah.
Maybe if I get Andy Samberg on one week.
Oh, what a guest.
I love him.
What would you ask Andy Samberg?
What it's like producing and being on a show, because
he's the producer.
He produced, he never had to audition, and so he always knew what was happening with the show, but the rest of the actors had no idea. So I feel like that would be a tension that he had to manage.
Wait, he kept them in the dark.
Well, yeah, it's just like anything. It's like,
yeah, right.
Will Amy and Jake end up together? He always would have known that.
Yeah, wow.
Anyway.
Wow. Actually, you know what always, for our Office fans out there,
that the Australian one comes out on Friday. I won't share an opinion.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
But I have some.
It looks terrible. But I was more saying the people who wrote The Office, you'd think it would have been Steve Carell who wrote The Office, right?
I know what you're going to say. I know everything about the American Office.
But it was, what's his name? And
BJ Novak was one of the writers. The guy who plays Toby was one of the writers.
What's her name?
Mindy Kaling.
Mindy Kaling
was also one of the writers.
But I love that they wrote it and then cast themselves as the
most
kind of a B.
Literally.
I mean, they're pretty central, but they're not
I know, it's so funny.
but
then
stars.
John Krasinski ended up writing and directing some. Yeah, they all had to go. It's really cute.
That.
Yeah.
I love it.
I have a question for you because we're both in Gen Z, but you have some years on me.
Are we there? Yep.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, okay.
There's this thing happening at the moment with musicians releasing albums.
Yeah.
Where they release an album and then anywhere between 3 to 9 months later, they release a deluxe album. And it's just become such a normal thing to do now that when an album comes out, with Sabrina's album, it's everyone's always it's kind of short, so surely she'll have deluxe. Was that a normal thing forever, or is that just a recent thing? Because I'm not complaining.
Well, I actually feel the trend these days is, say, T-Swizz, right?
Yeah.
She released 6 or 10, something crazy
versions. Yeah.
Where if you buy this, you get this extra track. If you and it's all to dominate
just the charts. Yeah.
Which it works. Mm-hmm. And she will girls I swear she's calculated. Yeah. She will release another version
just to stay
when someone else's album is coming out.
I know all the conspiracies.
Oh, it's real.
It's crazy.
Because deluxe albums.
Yeah, it's just it's with everyone. And it's just people expect it the second the regular album comes out. I'm we should just come with some more gratitude.
I'm still waiting for the Red album for Billie Eilish.
Huh?
Do you know about that?
Oh, where there was a red.
Yeah.
Lose
that, and we're waiting for Red. I'm into it.
She's not the type of person to release.
If you love that album,
what's
not deluxe? It's like a whole nother album.
Yeah.
If you're into that album and knowing there's more to come,
I know.
I'm into it.
Yeah. Okay, good. I was just I just feel it's such the normal thing at the moment.
I feel you're off it.
I'm not off it. I'm just curious because I'm we'll just
the
release.
eyes you're giving me, they were
I feel I'm not decided. Well, because I love the extra songs. I love them. But I'm just curious as to when this, who did that first? Because Taylor has been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
New Romantics was but she would do a deluxe track.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Lakes of Folklore.
Who started deluxe albums?
Who started it?
Who's to blame?
Who's to blame and who's to to be honest, we're thanking you.
Yeah.
If we're honest.
Okay, so this is where we're landing.
I'm thankful.
Okay.
I do.
I was unsure.
I love deluxe albums.
Okay.
I love
you just
guessing.
had really shifty eyes the whole time, so I was unsure.
I think and actually on top of that, I don't like when they just go album title in brackets deluxe. It's I can read the room. I know that. I like when they have for example, Olivia Rodrigo's album was Guts and then in brackets Spilled. Lizzie McAlpine's album recently was Older, in brackets, and Wiser.
Oh.
Just do something fun with it.
Bit more creative.
Yeah. I just if you're going to do that, do it well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, wow.
Don't just throw some at me.
You tell that.
Yeah.
Star.
Yeah. I will.
what to do with their time and money.
I can be on everyone's creative direction team if they just give me a call.
Yeah, I think you'd actually be a good asset.
I have the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Consultant. To the
To
stars.
Oh, totally. What a job.
Stop doing that.
Here's what I think you should do.
Yeah.
And why you should ignore everyone else's
By
advice.
Charlotte Lee Laurie. Should we get into it?
We should get into it.
We got a treat today.
We did.
We got Tash Gardner joining us.
Yes.
And we're going to be asking her, how do you get that perfect work-life balance?
Yes.
Because I don't know about you, but I'm always more probably one or the other.
Uh-huh.
And it's tricky.
Totally. Sometimes I'm all work. Sometimes I'm all life.
Yeah.
It's hard to find the in-between.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hi, everyone. I'm now here with Tash Gardner.
Hi.
She's the best. And we're going to be talking about having a good work-life balance.
Yeah.
And Tash is such a good example of this, such a good representation of this. She's a corporate girl. Are you in the city? No.
I work from home actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
We can get into that.
Yeah, I'll tell you more about that later.
Yeah. But do you want to just introduce yourself to the people, career,
100%.
history? Go for it.
Yeah. Well, despite how young I might look, I have 10 years of experience in the corporate world. I started, well, actually it's 9 years. I started when I was 21 in marketing, and I've been in that field ever since, but I've crossed industries. So I've done online retail, I've worked for an airline, finance, and now I work in tech.
Yeah.
So very diverse.
Killing it. And so I feel like a good place to start for us is just like, why is it important to have a good work-life balance? Because I feel like come out of uni, young adult, and you're like, okay, now I'm working and that's my life.
Yeah.
And so why is it important that we actually we need to have a good balance?
100%. And it's so interesting, like when you first get into the corporate world, like there's this element of wanting to prove yourself. So whatever my boss says goes. And I remember at one of my early jobs, I asked my boss on my first week, so what are my hours? Am I 9 till 5? And she's like, well, if you can get your job done in that time, then you can go home, I guess. And I was like, okay, no worries. So needless to say, I ended up working crazy hours for that boss because there was no permission to go home.
Yeah, wow.
And
it's like an absolute nightmare.
Oh, such a nightmare. And I got really burnt out.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Who would have thought?
And I wasn't very happy in my life. I was just like working. And I felt like all I was doing was working. And I was like, I don't want to be a career girl. This sucks. Like, I never see my friends. I never have time for exercise. This is just a sad way to live. In a turn of events, when the pandemic hit, I ended up taking a voluntary redundancy because my job at an airline was no longer required.
Of course.
And it gave me 15 months out of the full-time workforce to really reassess how I saw myself, where I found my identity. And it was when I was 25. So it was like a really key age to sort of take a step back from the hustle and reevaluate where I wanted to go with my career. And I think from there, that's where I really got this, like, it's like my soapbox of work-life balance and why it's so important.
Yeah.
And to answer the actual question of why it's so important, I think it gives you the ability to actually live in the now. So instead of looking forward to the weekend or the next long weekend or the next holiday, you're living a life that you enjoy Monday to Friday and Saturday and Sunday and every other day. So like it just gives you this ability to have presence. And I'm quite fortunate because 90% of the time I love my job. Yeah. Every job has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
But I work with really good people who I enjoy spending time with. So it's fine for me to be working during the week. But I've added elements to my week to ensure that, there is that balance so that when I get to the weekend, I feel like I've lived a good life and then I get to continue it, just not with work for 2 days.
That is such a good point. I feel like I've never heard anyone say that before.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'm not in the corporate world, so maybe it's the thing. But like, but just like, enjoy your whole week.
Yeah, totally.
Like that is so true.
And I've heard an expression a lot saying, you work to live, you don't live to work. And I remember hearing that when I was maybe 18 or 19 and I was working in a credit union. And I was, impressionable at that age, I guess. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I work to live. But it was kind of just, it was more of a rebellious to work attitude rather than allowing to incorporate work into your life. Not everyone, I guess, is as fortunate to be able to work a job that they like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are some days where work just feels like an obligation. But I guess trying to get into those areas where you can find enjoyment in your work. Like I haven't always worked jobs that I like.
Totally.
And I've had to adjust my attitude and find things that I've enjoyed about where I've been. So then I still do have that, I guess, mental balance. And then, you know, there's some situations you've just got to move on from.
Totally.
And you can do that too.
Yeah. We have so many podcasts about all of the above. So just make sure you check them out, guys.
Love that.
The previous one we did with Lucy was really good about, like just in the world of working a 9 to 5 as well.
Yeah.
Which is so good that you're touching on that. And then I guess in terms of like challenges, what are some of the, just you've kind of touched on, but even just to be like specifically, what are some of the challenges that you've noticed pop up in kind of maybe setting up that culture in your life?
Yeah, I think there is definitely still a lot of there is definitely still people out there whose whole identity is their job. And when you work alongside those kind of people, you can kind of fall into this trap of wanting to keep up with them and work as hard as they do hours wise. So setting boundaries around like, these are my working hours and I'm going to turn notifications off outside of that, it can be really tricky. I mean, for me personally, my team don't sit in Australia. So I've got team across Singapore, India, and Japan. Where I say I've got team, they're my teammates. I don't leave them. But for example, like Singapore's 3 hours behind us right now during daylight savings. And so when I finish, let's say 5 o'clock, that's 2 p.m. for them. So they're still in the middle of their working day. They might be messaging me, asking me questions, and it's my responsibility to not look.
Yes.
It's not their responsibility to not message me.
Yes.
So I think it's really about just setting your own boundaries. And it can be really hard, especially for someone like me. Like I do want to do a really good job and I want to keep my team happy and I want to keep my stakeholders happy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're constantly always available, that's going to impact you in the long term, and it's going to make you a less delightful person to work alongside because you're going to be so burnt out and tired and frustrated. Yeah. So you've got to take the boundaries seriously. Yeah. So that the long term you is more capable, I suppose.
Totally. Yeah, it's like quality over quantity.
Exactly. But it is really hard when there's like busy seasons. Yeah. You just want to like get it all done.
Oh my gosh, totally.
Yeah.
And it's the busy season.
It is the busy season.
It's like, it's been interesting. I feel like everyone's like already wrapping up for the year. Yeah. Or like we have been through October and now we're back to like, oh, wait. The year is not done.
It is not done.
We aren't finished.
We're not finished. Like we just said before, I'm rolling into my busy season. Yeah. And I think I'm like 3 weeks into the busy season. I'm like, can we go back? Can we go back?
Just chill, but
yeah,
honestly.
But the other thing on challenges before we move on is that when daylight savings hits and 5:30, 6 o'clock rolls around and it's still bright, mentally it's hard for me to switch off. Because it still feels like daytime. Yeah. Whereas in winter, when it gets to 4:30, 5 o'clock and it's dark, you're like, I'm out of here. Yeah. I got to go. It's dark. Yeah. So I've found that really hard, like actually forcing myself to switch off because the time is done. Yeah. Go enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah. Go to the beach.
Live a good life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, that's so true. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. I feel like a few episodes ago I was talking about how we always go to pub trivia. Yeah. Well, Tash is the person that we go to pub trivia with.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Just in case you're wondering.
I don't really win us anything.
No, you do. You are our sport representative though.
That's true.
When none of the guys come. Yeah. No, Formula 1, and you just know like AFL, all the things. Also.
That's true.
That's true.
Shout out to Oscar Piastri if you listen to this podcast.
Oh my gosh, hey.
You are the GOAT, future drivers champion.
Yeah. Who's just quit? Daniel.
He didn't quit.
Sorry.
I don't want to talk about it. Sorry. It's really sad. Daniel Ricciardo, if you listen to this podcast, I've defended you in many comment sections.
Did he get phased out?
He got fired.
Yeah, it's really sad. Oh my gosh. I love him.
And I still believe that he was the better of the two drivers on his team. Controversial take.
I believe you. Because I don't know anything else about it. Oh, that's really sad. Okay, anyway.
We
digress.
Do you
want to share like some good strategies, like practical tips in setting up the work-life balance? So boundaries is really good, but do you have any other kind of strategies?
Yeah. I mean, I can probably mostly just speak to the strategies that have worked for me.
Yes.
So last year I had a very intense work situation for a previous employer. There's a reason why they're a previous employer. And I did not have any strategies for maintaining boundaries. I got really, really busy. I stopped hanging out with friends because I was so busy. I stopped going to the gym because I was so busy. And my mental health took such a dive. It was actually kind of scary. I'd say it's probably the lowest I've ever been with my mental health. I have had this wrestle with anxiety since I was about 20 years old. And, you know, over the last 10 years, I've managed to learn ways out of it. But last year, something just didn't add up in my mind and I couldn't see what I was leading myself into. And it wasn't until I was in the midst of it that I was like, oh my goodness, I need help. Yeah. But it was almost too late at that point. The pressure at work was too intense and I just melted down. And that was on the pursuit of perfection. Like I was trying to do such a good job on this project that I wasn't asking for help because I just wanted to do it all and I wanted to finish what I'd started. I didn't want to be a quitter. But actually I've learned that your bosses are there to support you. And if you're not doing well, you need to be responsible for your own mental health and you need to reach out and ask. You can't actually expect someone else to see and realize where you're at. Like you've got to have self-awareness in that. And out of that, I took a learning of if I'm too busy for the gym, I'm too busy. So roll around to this year, now that I'm in my crazy season, I am totally mindful of that. If my response to my friends that I go to the gym with is, sorry, I can't, more than twice a week, and, you know, usually I try and go 3-4 times a week. So 50% of the time or 25% of the time, I'm like, can't make it. It's like, okay, that's a red flag or an orange flag. Let me speak to my boss, see what we can do. And I think that is such like it's a trigger for me of if I'm too busy to exercise. And for me, the gym is actually more than just a workout. It's also like a social event. So, you know, if I go to the 6:30 class with my friends, well, this is in the morning, we'll always cross the road and go to Chroma Barrel 1 because Chocolate Box is in Chroma.
Bang up.
But yeah, so after the workout in the morning, we go grab a coffee and we're there for maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes. I get home around 8 in the morning and I'm ready to start my day. I've already had a social interaction and I'm an extrovert, so that's really important. I can't isolate myself because that's where things get a bit rocky. If I'm too busy to make a priority for that exercise and that social time, then I need to ask for help at work or, you know, if it's 2 weeks where things are really busy in the lead up to a conference or an event or something that we're running, that's fine. But if this is extended over a period of months, that's when it's like, okay, something's got to shift because this is too much.
And I'd say that like your boss would also appreciate you like being in communication with how going because you know, if they're doing their job well, they care about their employees and stuff. So it's like
my
such
boss
a good
definitely does. He's a good guy. But I have learned that it is my responsibility to speak up. I can't expect him to see into the detail of everything that I'm doing. We have one-on-ones weekly where I share an update and that's my time. Like if I need to tell him something, that's the time that I've got. And we are consistent with those one-on-ones. We don't cancel them. So, definitely learn over the last couple of years that my mental health is my responsibility and so is my workload. And I've got to speak up if I need help.
Such a good point. I feel like we can never talk about that, how important that is enough.
Totally.
And you kind of have answered this question already, but just like, are there signs that can signify when we're working too much, or even like maybe we're prioritizing life too much? Like just like signs that can like signify kind of either side of the, is pendulum the right word? Pendulum.
Yeah, the pendulum. Look, with my personality type, I don't think I've ever gone to the not working hard enough side of the pendulum. Although maybe in my career break of 15 months, that might have lasted a bit longer than it needed to. But I did work part-time during that time, so I don't know. Oh gosh, I'm probably more experienced with the working too hard side of the scale. And that's not a flex. It's like it's a what's it called? It's a flaw. I don't know. It's not. It's my own red flag. My personal ick or whatever you want to say. Oh no, I just hit that.
That's
thing.
okay.
So yeah, I guess I've sort of touched on the things to look out for that I might be working too hard, which I've learned over the last couple of years. Not working hard enough. I honestly think I just know it in my gut when I've maybe taken it a little bit too easy. But I think in the current job that I'm working, because I do sort of dive into the event space a little bit, there are some weeks that I'm working 65, 70 hours over a 5-day period because I'm on site at a conference.
Yes.
And that maths might be wrong. I'm not very good at maths. But it's like hectic days.
Yeah.
Let's just say like
I won't correct you because I
16,
haven't done
nowadays.
maths for years.
I dropped it after year 10. I'm good with words. I'm no good at maths. So funny.
Yeah.
But so I think, we're here on a Monday at 10:20 in the morning. Yeah. But next week I've got a massive conference. So next Monday at 10:20 in the morning, I'm definitely going to be hands on the tools.
Yeah, I feel like it just all comes back to just having the self-awareness, hey?
100%.
It's just like knowing your hours. And like, I feel like we're both lucky in that we have jobs that we can have that autonomy to be like,
totally.
Yeah, I'll do this now and then this now.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of like, and sometimes that's not realistic as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I feel like, and this probably is less of like in like a actual like job atmosphere, but I'm very good at taking it easy. Like I'm very good at relaxing. I'm very good at taking like I'm in uni at the moment, which everyone would know because I talk about it constantly. I'm so good at doing everything else, but like just like not working hard enough, and then it just really comes and bites you. But yeah. I feel like I guess
are there red flags? Like do you have like something that you pick up on?
It's whenever I'm cleaning my room.
Got it.
Like it's just I'm like, oh, hold on.
What should I be doing right now?
This is not number one priority. Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes
totally.
it is.
And I would say a clean space contributes to good mental health.
Yeah.
Like I never feel better about my life than when my apartment's clean.
Yeah. It's when I get like the vacuum out and stuff and it's like, okay.
Yeah. You're going a bit too deep.
We're finished now, Charlotte. Sit down. Do the work. Or like when I have like an assignment and I'm like, I just need to like, I'm going to go and work somewhere else, which is like, can be good sometimes, but then I like take 45 minutes to drive to like a really random cafe just because I don't want to do the work. Yeah. So it's just like the procrastination side when I like notice those things where it's like, we just need to knuckle down. I feel like those are my flags. Where it's
it sometimes possible though that you're procrastinating because you haven't taken a proper break? So you're starting to get worked up in your head about all the things you've got to do. So you're not actually properly rested and you still feel overwhelmed. Yeah. So maybe the answer there is just take a break.
Yeah, that's actually really true.
Just rest.
Yeah. And like good rest.
Yeah, not on your phone.
Not on the phone rest.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so true, honestly. I learn so much when I do these. Whenever we have guests on, I'm like, wow, my mind is open so far.
I love that.
Who would have thought?
So good.
Okay, let's talk about hybrid and remote working because that's very much the world that we're living in these days. Yes. Which has its goods and its goods. It's got pros and cons. Can you tell that it's Monday, everyone? Yeah, it has its pros and its cons. And so how have you seen that has impacted your work-life balance? Because
totally.
If people didn't know, I did high school in COVID. And so I find like online work like quite triggering because it's like so like, oh my gosh, all the memories are coming back to like online classes and stuff. So I really don't like it. Like I much prefer to be at an office, but sometimes that's just like maybe your workplace doesn't even have like a central office and stuff. So it's like we have to be okay with it. So how have you found that hybrid or remote has like impacted your work-life balance?
Personally, it has made it so good.
Yeah.
So my previous employer did implement a post-COVID mandate back to the office, which I know a lot of employers across Sydney did.
Yeah.
And it started at 1 day, which was awesome. Extrovert, loved it. Moved up to 2 days, also totally fine because you've still got 3 days at home. Moved up to 3 days and I was like, no, this sucks.
Yeah.
It was an hour each way commute.
Yeah.
And I get that we have a choice about where we live, but I live in Freshwater.
Yeah.
I don't want to move closer to Darling Harbour.
Yeah.
That's not something I want to do.
No.
So commuting can be exhausting. I know pre-COVID, I was 5 days a week in the office. Yeah. I was at my desk by 8 a.m. and I didn't leave until 6, which was too much.
Yes.
And I was driving there, and I was working quite far from home, so it took me about an hour and 15, hour and a half each way, depending on traffic. And the reason I got in early was to avoid it, and leaving late to avoid, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But it was super exhausting. Like, I didn't feel like I had time to exercise when I was leaving my house at 6:45 in the morning and getting home at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, the biggest thing that has changed for me is that I have the flexibility to create my own schedule. So even, for example, having the energy to go to trivia on a Tuesday night. If I was commuting every day, that would probably feel like a bit of a chore, even though it's in the same suburb that I live in. It's like a 5-minute walk. It just, it has enabled me to do more with my life. And to go back to that first question where we're talking about why is it so important, I am able to live more in the present because I've got more time in my calendar. And I get that, you know, not everyone has that flexibility because there are employers that are mandating full-time back to office. But I work for an employer who has said, all the way up to the CEO, we will never set a mandate. We want to create office spaces that are a magnet, not a mandate. And through that, it encourages people to want to go to the office. And I think that creates a better culture as well, because people want to be there. They want to engage. Personally, I don't go into the office all that much because, as I said before, my team is scattered across Asia Pacific. And then my stakeholders are scattered across Australia and New Zealand. So when I do go into the office, it's really special, but it's maybe few and far between. But it's given me a really good opportunity to create balance in my life, and that's what works for me. And I know not everyone is obviously going to be in that position. Some people, I've got friends who love the routine of going into the office. They love knowing they've got somewhere to be at the same time every single day. They go to the gym beforehand. They get a run in, whatever they want to do, or they get up, they make their same breakfast every single day. I am not that rhythmed. I don't thrive under strict routine. So being able to create my own schedule on a day-to-day basis through hybrid work has just been absolutely brilliant. It helps that my company sort of like sells the tech that enables that. So we're obviously promoting that. Like, that's literally my job as a marketer to promote that technology. I love it. So hybrid work's the future, everyone.
It actually so is though. I have like uni classes now that's like about how to do it well and stuff. In terms of like prioritizing relationships and stuff, how can we do that well?
I think something that to be vulnerable, like, have actively struggled with is that something that I've wanted for my life is like fall in love and get married, and getting to 30 in church and still being single is often like, I don't know, it's a thing. As much as people don't want it to be a thing.
No, it is.
Want it to be a thing, it's a thing. And as much as like I love my job and the way that my career has progressed, I never wanted it to go that way at the cost of finding my person. So I try really hard to remain present and active in my life and not get down and out about the fact that, you know, I travel a lot with my job across Australia, particularly between October and February. And sometimes I can get a little bit like frustrated, like, oh, if I was just like able to be consistently at home on the weekend, I could be in church, because that's where ultimately where I want to find someone. I want someone who loves Jesus as much as I do.
Absolutely.
So in terms of prioritizing that kind of relationship, I think I try and be as consistent as I can. Where I have control, I make sure that I'm home by Sunday so that I can be at church. It's not always possible, but you know, I do my best. But in terms of friendships, that has been probably the most beautiful thing that has come out of hybrid work for me. I've got a group of girlfriends who live in the same suburb as me. We've got a group chat, and like, you know, random times it'll be, hey, who wants to grab a coffee? Who's available for a walk?
Beautiful.
And it's just made life so much richer, and even trivia as well, like being so close to home. You know, they call the Northern Beaches the Insular Peninsula. I think that's further north, but it's so nice, right? So I think it's really just about like in the day-to-day, just creating space for people. And yeah, just being available as much as possible. Like there are definitely times where the group chat goes off and I'm like, oh, I'm in a meeting, I can't.
Yeah.
I've got a tight deadline, I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like, yeah, be attuned to every moment, and if I can, I will. If I can't, I don't.
Yeah.
And my friends seem to understand. So
yeah.
I think getting good friends in your life is probably a really great place
totally
to start.
Totally.
Yes. And then
yeah, I feel like almost every podcast episode we always end up talking about how important community is.
Yeah.
And prioritizing it and setting up a good community that's consistent and going to be there for you. So it's such a good point.
Totally.
And then kind of to finish up, do you have any last pieces of advice for us when it comes to work-life balance? Even if there's one thing that you want us to frolic away knowing.
Oh my gosh, I feel like there's so much. I feel like my soapbox is like, it's okay to rest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up in Adelaide. I didn't grow up in Sydney.
Yes.
And Sydney is like a hustle city. And it actually like conflicts with my inner world quite a lot, because I don't think I am a hustler.
Yeah.
You know, my career has gone pretty well so far, and it's by the grace of God. Like I think God will always open the door and your character will keep you there.
Yeah.
I didn't make that up. Someone else said that to me, but I fully believe that is so true. It's just about like when God opens a way for you, just like buckling down and doing the work. And there's one scripture, Colossians 3, where it says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you'll receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. So when I'm approaching work, like my job is to serve my boss, because in honoring my boss, I'm honoring God. Yeah. And I'm not there for my own agenda. I actually don't work to get promotions. God has opened those doors for me so generously. Yeah. But every single time when I get into a new role, it's about honoring the person who is leading me. Yeah. And fulfilling their vision for the team. And I think, like God will reward good motive and good character. Totally. But I also think with that scripture, I'm so good at the work heartily part. What I'm not good is remembering he gave us the Sabbath. And he did give us the Sabbath. Yeah. And going back to the point about Sydney being like a hustle city, I think it's just so important to carve out time for that day of rest, because that honors God too. Yeah. So yeah, I guess my final takeaway would just be learn your boundaries, work hard, rest hard, play hard. Totally. Yeah. Live a life that you enjoy as much as possible on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully, you see the fruit and richness of God in your life. Yeah. There. Wow. That was such a perfect summation. Honestly, it was perfect. Felt like I was like ready to preach. Yes. No, it was so good. Such a good points. Honestly, we've been so blessed to have you on, Tash. Thank you so much for coming. Such great wisdom, and like just having your expertise speak into that is so good as well, because you just absolutely live that. And I've only known you for like not heaps long. Yeah, a couple years. So I've been blessed to know you in the great stages of life. Thanks, so good. And I'll hand back to me. Awesome. Hey, thanks, Shah. Thanks. Thank you so much, Tash.
That was good.
She's designed to be on a podcast. I feel like she's made for that.
She's
got the voice for it, got the vibe. Dare I say the aura?
We're not into that.
Yeah, I'm not into that. It felt so wrong coming out of my mouth.
The spirit,
the vibe.
Yeah. Yep.
But such great insight.
Yeah.
I feel like she's really nailed that balance, which is why we got her on, obviously.
Yeah, good.
But so much fun.
Good.
So much fun.
And is this...
Oh, sorry.
Is this true?
Yeah.
Have we got a relationship series coming up?
We do.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I know. We're going to be... If you guys have any questions...
Send them in.
Yeah, send them in.
What do I do when... Ask me anything. Let's do it.
We're going to... Yeah, it's going to be really fun. We're going to try and cover like all bases.
Oh.
So it'll be a few episodes.
Mini series.
Oh yeah, there'll be a few episodes. So stay tuned for that. Very exciting. I'm very excited to try and coordinate all the people to get here at the same time. But yes, Well, thank you so much for listening. There's a lot to look forward to, a lot to take away from today's episode, but keep tuning in and we will see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Bye, bye, bye. This podcast is produced by C3 SYD Church. We exist to know Jesus, find community, and discover purpose. For information, head to c3syd.church, and for more content, go to @SYDLife.podcast. Help us reach more people in Sydney by sharing this episode with a friend. See you next time.